Hi everyone, Sabia here for Asmara Belly Dance Initiative's Community Thursdays, and I am so excited to be talking to Carol today. We're just going to jump right into our questions. So Carol, could you let us know what style of belly dance you do?
I would say that for the last several years, I've been focused primarily on Egyptian style, on all varieties of Egyptian style, folkloric, the rock sharky stuff. I think that's kind of been where my heart is. Um, I know there's tons out there, and I'm sure along the road I will venture out. Like I've always loved Turkish music, but I just haven't gotten around to diving into it. I'd say Egyptian is my home right now.
I love Egyptian, and I haven't spent a lot of time doing Turkish either, but I know I need to touch it too. Like that's definitely like a whole nother world of belly dance that would be really cool to tap into.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
yeah,
just I love the music, and I love a lot of like the Turkish Romani stuff too. It's I find it kind of intimidating though because it's such a different world, like aesthetically and musically. But when I hear it, it's like, oh, that's so badass. Um, and I feel like I feel like I really need to be super proficient in one to come into another with I guess the utmost respect and fresh ears. If that makes any sense? I mean, I know I
yeah,
don't
I
have
get
to.
that.
You don't have to, but I feel like I feel like that's kind of what I need to do.
Well, I mean, that's cool. Like we're always growing as dancers. I think it's good to like know our strengths and have our goals because there's always a different style of belly dance we can touch or something that we can dig into more. So that's yeah. I mean, Turkish is cool, but you have done a lot of beautiful Egyptian style dancing. I love following you on Instagram.
Thank
And I
you.
wanted to like shout you out because when I was doing my research, like you have won, girl, you have won so many competitions. And I know that some of us are really in that world and some of us aren't. I wanted to ask you like what it's been like to be on the competition circuit, and would you have any advice for other BIPOC dancers if they want to adventure into that?
You know, um, so I haven't been doing competitions in the last few years, especially since I had my daughter. But I think um, I think with competitions, for me personally, a lot of it was kind of proving something to myself. Um, Proving something to myself, and with every competition, I felt like prepping for it really helped me improve immensely in terms of technical skill, strength. I always felt like there was a huge leap that I made from the start of competition season or prepping for a competition to the end. And so I found that to be really valuable. In retrospect, I mean, I'm glad I have those titles. It's kind of nice to say, oh, well, I got this trophy and that trophy. But ultimately, it was as a BIPOC dancer, um, I can't say like, I mean, not that I ever really face uh, like explicit discrimination or anything that I felt like really outed me as an Asian dancer. Um, but I always did notice that it was very white, and the judges panels were often really white, with the exception of when I was in Cairo. Um, there were rarely like black or any other like non-white judge on the panel. And as far as competitors go, I noticed that too because I'm also in the Pacific Northwest, and the belly dance communities here aren't quite as diverse as say the East Coast. I presume, um, just from what I've noticed online, looking at different events and different posters and seeing the different communities here on Facebook. Um, Yeah, there was always a weird like discomfort. And I know I didn't grow up with the same I didn't grow up with dance lessons all the time with a whole lot of discipline and formal training. And I noticed that some of the top competitors, at least in the Pacific Northwest, who were doing really well, who were winning, were really you could tell they trained really hard with very specific teachers, and there was always a specific style that seemed to resonate more with the judges panels that were almost always mostly white, or always mostly white. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said almost, but yeah. So I feel like and I never felt like I resonated with that style of training or really that aesthetic. Specifically in the Seattle area for a long time, like American cabaret, Turkish influence American cabaret was really big here. And yeah, and so I felt like those styles um did better in terms of the score sheets and with those particular judges. Whether or not there's a bias, a racial bias in how those dancers are scored, I can't really say. Well, you know what? You said that we're not filtering anything. I'm just gonna say it's a very white style of belly dance. Can I just say that?
You
Okay.
can.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Okay. I sometimes forget I spent a lot of time in my personal life um doing what I just did, trying to find the nice way to say things.
The thing
So
is,
it's
it's
hard to get.
not nice. It's just we've learned to like protect other people. And
Yes,
us being assertive
yes.
and honest is not us being mean, it's us telling the truth. But I
Thank
get it.
you.
Like I do it too. I do it too.
Yeah. Yeah, because in my work, I'm a massage therapist and I come across a lot of white clients. I'm a moderator in a massage therapy group for Washington State, and there's mostly white people in there, and I always have to watch myself. Um, and my husband's white, so I mean, he's a great guy though. He's come a long way. But yeah, around my in-laws, I feel like I always have to monitor myself, so I forget that sometimes I don't have to. But I'm just gonna say Seattle is very white. The Pacific Northwest is very white, and I've done the competitions I've done clearly been mostly Pacific Northwest. One in California, but it was still pretty white. The judges panel were really white, um, and not to say that they're not, competent or not great at what they do, but there's a clear aesthetic preference among these white dancers. The whole American cabaret scene um where like you want to see more polished lines, lots more ballet value in ballet, and very strong isolations, very clear isolations, um and the musical interpretations I've noticed have to me feel a lot more literal in that. And by that I mean, like, say I even had a teacher tell me, like, one of my earlier teachers, who's a white lady, wonderful white lady. But just one example, like I would shimmy sometimes to vocals, to like a sustaining vocal note, even when there's no vibrato. And one of my old teachers was like, why are you shimmying? There's none of this going on in her voice. Why are you shimmying? And I was like, because emotionally, I felt it, the intensity. I mean, I've noticed Egyptian dancers doing that too. Like even before I knew a whole lot about Egyptian dance, watching them, I could tell, but this white teacher was just like, no, the music's not going like this, so you don't go like this.
That's a very Western interpretation of an Eastern
Yes.
song.
Yes, very Western interpretation. And I found that dancers who did well in these competitions, who typically were white, typically interpreted music like that. Um, Not that that's wrong, but like you said, it's a Western, it's different from, you know, how I think non-Western um, aesthetics go.
Do you
So
feel like, I know you said Egypt was a little different. Do you feel like the competition in Egypt, like they were looking for different things and you saw different kinds of performances, or was it kind of the same circuit?
it was totally different. And it was totally different. And I was still so I competed in Egypt 3 times if you consider one trip with 2 different competitions. But so the first time I went, it was the summertime. It was Ahlan Wasalan and Rocks, of course. But I was still a baby dancer, and I I had a bigger ego than I should have. Not that I expected to win or anything, but I don't know. I still thought I was good. I thought I was, hot shit. So not just good. I thought it was pretty darn good. I went there and they were all amazing. Lots of Eastern European dancers. And now Ahlan Wasalan, they had like 4 nights of competitions. 4 nights of competitions, different categories. And there were students from Eastern Europe, all over the world, lots from South America, Eastern Europe, lots from China and Korea and Japan. Well, mostly China and Korea. And they were all technically just amazing, just mind blowing. You could tell these people took the craft seriously, and seriously in a different way than the Pacific Northwest dancers did. I mean, clearly they were all athletic, but they showed their athleticism differently. Whereas, so in Egypt, I noticed there was a lot of attention to musicality, lots of emoting, lots of facial expressions, although sometimes I want to say it was like borderline caricature, like mime. Like, I mean, there were some dancers that you watch, you could tell, oh, they're really into this music, they're really listening to it, like you can tell it's like moving them. But a lot of them, it almost felt like facial expressions were choreographed, gestures were choreographed, very choreographed. um you know I don't know what else I was going to say. I forget what your question was. I'm sorry. I was
No,
just
it's
describing what I
okay. We
saw.
were just talking. No, I mean, that all pertains to it. We were just talking about like what it was like to compete in Egypt compared to other places.
There was
And I
tons.
know you were kind of going over how the dancers emoted differently and they had the
Yeah,
athleticism but used it differently.
yeah. I felt like so in the way the Pacific Northwest dancers, the white dancers here, were really athletic in like their Pilates work, their floor work, all the AMCAP stuff, their floor work, their tricks, doing the splits, lots of range of motion stuff and not so much like nuanced abdominal stuff. The Eastern Europeans and even some of the Chinese uh, were really athletic, but everything was strong. Everything was really big in terms of like their facial expressions. Emotions were big. The drama was big. That makes sense. Yeah. Um, but I mean, they were all lovely. But each night was really long. I will say that they'll start at like I think 8 o'clock in the evening. No, no, it was more like 10 o'clock, 9 or 10 o'clock, if I remember correctly. And the competition for that night would go on to like well past 2 in the morning. There's one of those nights where I went on around 2 or 3 in the morning. I was so tired, and I was just
That
like,
happened to me the one time I competed in Egypt. It was like around 9-ish, 10-ish to 2 a.m. and I went on at like 1. And I was
oh,
trying to stay warmed up the whole
yeah,
time in the bed.
yeah. And I was in
I was
costume
like,
the
I don't know
whole
what
time. My God, was it which competition did you do?
Man, it was Aladdin's festival. I don't even remember the name because it was like 6 years ago. And I'll just say, like, when I did it, I was still new to kind of getting to that level of belly dance, and I just did it. I just signed up.
Good. Good for you.
Scary, wonderful, amazing experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. But it was, I haven't competed in the US. But I've noticed the difference, even from it being an audience member And
Yeah.
going to Europe and seeing competitions and then competing in Egypt, I loved it, but it's a whole like I want to call it an event. It's like a whole production to do a
Yes, it
competition.
is.
And
It
yeah,
is.
it's definitely a different mental space to be in to like be in the zone for that long, even if you're done at the beginning and waiting. So,
Yeah. Oh my God. But
but
you
more
know what
power
else?
to you. You did 3.
Well, I did a few categories in the Ahlan Wasalan too. So that was the first time I went. That was the summer one. And then I also competed in the Rocks of Course one, the one hosted by Randa Kamel. That one, I don't know what I was doing. I just remember doing really poorly and like losing my balance a lot and being scared shitless and crying afterwards. Like,
It
but
happens
it
though. It
happens. It happens.
happens.
I'm still thankful for the experience because just I think yeah, and my favorite part about all of it was dancing with the band. With the band, like there's nothing like dancing to a live Egyptian band, and because they have like a full or not necessarily full percussion section, but a bigger percussion section, and um the music just sounds so much richer. What I've always loved about Egyptian live music is how heavy the percussion is, like how it's like the real like heartbeat of the music, whereas here we get so used to the canned synthesized drums when there's no drummer, or even when there is a drummer, it's all like, he's doing a solo to a drum machine or something, and it gets to be cheesy.
It's not the same.
No, it's not the same. Um, that was, yeah. And then I went back like the year after, but in the winter time for their winter intensive, because I'm I found that being in a huge festival environment was kind of exhausting for me because I love people. Like I love individual people as human beings, but I lose so much energy being around a lot of people. And I wanted the more intimate space with the winter intensive. So I did the Ahlan Wasalan winter intensive and did the competition there. And totally different experience, so much more comfortable. And you get to talk to the judges who are also your instructors right away and get feedback almost right away. And everybody was so supportive. I loved it. That was a lot of fun. And the class was small. It was like there was like 20 of us, and I was the only one from the US. So that was interesting. But yeah, I really want to, if I could go back and do another festival, I would do the winter intensive with a smaller group. Definitely.
How was it traveling overall to Egypt?
At the time, so the last time I went was December 2016, November, December 2016. Yeah, that was after Trump won. Oh my gosh. I was trying to remember, because how sometimes you divide up time from prior to that election to after, and it's just I'm surprised that my life didn't stop. My dance life didn't stop. And I had my daughter after Trump was in office. Oh my gosh, that's so weird. Anyway, traveling was not a huge problem for me. Um, Honestly, I didn't really go out a whole lot by myself. I spent 3 days in Luxor just with me, and
This
I had a tour
is
guide. It was so amazing. I cried the day that my driver took me to the airport, back to the airport so that I could fly to Cairo. And I was like, I don't want to leave Luxor. Those people were so kind. People were so kind, and it helps when you have a tour guide who knows everybody too, And I hired this woman named Simone. I forget how to pronounce her last name. She's Italian. And her husband was living in Luxor, and he was a tour guide. And so the two of them planned things out for me and showed me around. They were just like the two best people ever. Just really nice. And everyone was just so nice. They took me to to weddings. They took me to Simone's set up workshops for me to take with one of the Mazen sisters, Hayria, and yeah, that was just such an amazing time. And I love the antiquities. It's just I'm one of those people who walks in and I'm like, I feel it in my bones or something,
I
just
bring
kind of.
an extra suitcase every time I go. I
Oh
understand.
yeah,
Just so I can bring a little bit of it home with
of
me. I just,
course, yeah, yeah.
it's nice.
Um, it's just so amazing. Yeah, I really want to go back there. And my husband met up with me the time before that, um, on a Nile cruise. And yeah, it was so awesome. It was so awesome. And it's really nice to have somebody to enjoy that with who's just as psyched about that nerdy stuff, historical stuff as you. And it just made things though that much more romantic. That was because that was also really our first trip together as husband and wife, like big overseas trip. Um,
Sweet.
our first real honeymoon. Yeah, it was just amazing. Um, yeah. Anyhow, I felt safe traveling there. I felt safe. I felt like people wanted to get me to buy stuff, you know, and and I actually kind of enjoyed some of the jokes. Like when I was with my husband, somebody would offer him 20 camels for me or something. I know that's what they do with all female tourists to get them to spend money, but it was still nice. Like, oh, it's different from like the catcalling you get here. The catcalling you get here feels like an entitled catcalling. You know what I mean? Like you owe them something, like owe them a smile or a flirt. Whereas there, it's like it's a different kind of dynamic. Like please, spend your money on me, please. You have the power. You've got the US money. So that was nice. I'm yeah. I did encounter a really curious situation one of the very, very first time I went to Egypt, but it was before I was really dancing. My friend and I were walking, we were in Alexandria, and we were at the Library of Alexandria actually, and this group of kids came up to me, they're like, "Are you from China? Are you from China?" And of course, I told them no, I'm from the United States, and they asked to take a picture of me. So it was like a bunch of these school kids wanting to take a picture of me because I look like I wasn't from Egypt and that I was from China or something. And it was just really cute, you know. Um, kind of funny. It would have been really deeply offensive if that happened here in the States, But from them, I could tell it was like a genuine curiosity. Like they don't, and it's just really innocent curiosity. And it was really, I thought it was really sweet.
Well, it all comes down to your comfort level too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
even as people of color, when we go to countries that are also primarily people of color, or not
Hmm.
also because it's not here, but yeah, like it's kind of your preference. I mean, I noticed the difference in attention, especially versus like going somewhere like Europe. Not necessarily
Yeah.
not invasive all the time, but it was a different energy.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel more comfortable traveling somewhere like Egypt. So I get that.
Hmm.
So I know, like you had mentioned, pre and post Trump era, which we all experienced that. Well, since a lot has happened since, I know a good deal of us kind of had to alter our travel within the last 4 years just due to the politics of things, due to the pandemic, natural disasters. How have you stayed inspired, like through all the ups and downs? And I know now you're also a new-ish parent, so that definitely impacts your time. What keeps you
Yeah.
going as a dancer?
As a dancer, quite honestly, I'm in and out all the time because I'm yeah, my brain, I'm just kind of a jerk of all trades. Like I'm in a lot of I have my hands in a lot of different things, but as far as dance goes, Watching other dancers navigate this pandemic with with their online classes and their social media accounts has been really inspiring to me, honestly. Um, I think keeping up with the music, I try to follow a lot of Egyptian dancers, um, and dancers from all over the Arab world, dancers from North Africa, and not just that, but I try to follow other styles too, and just to kind of just to be in awe and just be like, wow, that's really cool. Not necessarily to see if I can take something and learn something and apply it to my own dance, but just for entertainment, just to enjoy. Um, New music is really important to me. I'm also a musician. That was what I did before I started studying dance. I was a singer-songwriter, and I'm returning to that. And so I'm always trying to find new sources of new music to listen to and to be inspired by and to be moved by. So that's really helping. And I find that I think a lot of with a lot of musicians not really touring because of the pandemic, they're doing a lot of creating, a lot of recording, and a lot of sharing a lot of content. And that's been really, really cool. Um, so yeah, I think, and also just talking, just just kind of paying attention to the community, I'm finding to be really inspiring. Um, what I've been so thankful for with this pandemic is the emergence of more online classes from where I normally wouldn't have access to classes. Like teachers from Egypt are teaching online, teachers from everywhere are teaching online, and it's so cool. And even people who didn't weren't teaching out, you know, before before pandemic out in the real world, they decided, oh, I do have something to offer online. Maybe this is an easier platform for me. Maybe it's more doable. And yeah, I feel like it's really opened up. Um, yeah, a lot of new classes and stuff. So I feel like that's been the one bright point about this pandemic for me personally.
It's
So
definitely opened up the world. Like
yeah,
we're able to, without spending maybe money on venues or plane tickets, like access each other and share
yeah,
our art and also connect more. Like it's been cool to connect, like especially selfishly doing these interviews. Like I really am enjoying connecting with all these people online that I
yeah,
would not typically bump into, even if the world was open.
yeah.
Because there's hundreds of events. We don't all end up at the same place.
Right.
What do you, I guess, with all of these new opportunities, how are you fostering community now that things have shifted kind of virtually?
How have I been fostering community? I don't. I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't. Um, I'm I'm pretty self-involved. So I have my business. I'm a massage therapist. I have my daughter. Um, and I've been just trying to juggle everything. And I'm trying to write music again. I'm re-releasing an old record, and I'm re-recording some of that too. Um, and I'm still trying to I'm still trying to do the occasional. Well, I have this one series that I've been doing that I've been trying to put together, a choreography series, and I was kind of reaching people with that. I originally did that for the Move for Lebanon fundraiser after the thing happened in Beirut. Um, but now that that's over, I still have a few more videos to record for that. Um, and so I guess I'm kind of fostering community and um a little bit in social media, via social media, posting videos and engaging with other dancers that way. Um but aside from that, I I'm kind of useless. I'm sorry.
That's still fostering community. And it's also good. Like, I think we have to talk about too, like, we have to pour into ourselves. And I think, like, women of color, we struggle with that because we usually are
Yeah.
like holding things up or gluing them together. Like, it's okay to be like, I'm fostering myself right now.
Yeah, I guess
That's
that's what I'm trying
fine.
to do. I'm trying to get enough sleep.
Look, Rest is important. Self-care,
Yes,
focus on your goals. That's
yes.
good too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can be a better community member when I'm, in good health and I'm awake and I can be present. Um, my before the pandemic, my good friends Danetta, Summer, and we were gonna put together this big showcase called Spice, the Dances of the African and Arab Diaspora in Tacoma, here where I live. I live in Tacoma. I'd actually done the show twice prior. The last one was in 2018, and that was a benefit for a local ballet nonprofit here called the Tacoma uh, Urban Performing Arts Center. And basically, it was a showcase of dance forms from all across the African and Arab diaspora, including like folkloric dance from North Africa, from Egypt, um, and then also from Latin America, from the Caribbean, and from, of course, African American dance forms here. Um, the last one, it was so awesome. So we are like, let's do another one, make it really big for 2020, and we were gonna bring Khadija. You know Khadija, right? She's amazing.
She's
She's
actually on our board.
Oh, she is? I
Yeah.
love her. I love her. But of course, the pandemic happened and we just halted everything. And then we talked about doing some stuff online, but none of us ever really got our shit together to do that. So,
It's a lot of
um,
work.
it is a lot of
Yeah,
work.
a lot of work.
So basically, that's kind of on hold. We were gonna do like some maybe fundraisers for it for when we can do the real thing, but life happened and all the three of us just kind of got sidetracked and so, but we still have the venue, so whenever they open again, we're definitely going to do the in-person one. It's just like, I feel like the pandemic has slowed us all mentally down too, and just trying to keep up with everything, it's just kind of dragged us like psychically and mentally and emotionally. So it's like everything is taking so much longer to complete. to do. I
I
just
think
like,
it's okay though. Like it's been a lesson in it's forced us all to slow down
yeah.
and not just prioritize, but like especially in the United States, like
Mhm.
slow the fuck down. Like we do so much and it's not mandatory to like keep the hustle going. Sometimes it's okay
Right.
to be like, I'm working on nothing. I'm on a hiatus. I'm working on myself. Or I'm not connecting with people. And I think we have to talk about that too. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Thank you. I
Because
tell myself
it's
that all the
not
time.
how
Like,
like it doesn't have to run like where are we running to and who is it for?
right. 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 You're
Like
so right.
I need to work on that myself. So I
What
get
was
it.
that you just said?
I said I'm definitely a hypocrite and need to work on that myself.
Oh,
It's a toxic behavior that's like I think
yeah.
we all have this like expectation that we've placed on ourselves to like hustle, hustle, hustle. It's okay to
Right.
I think that show's gonna be fabulous though. Whenever the
It
world opens
is.
back up, it will. Like that's
I'm
gonna
not
be
gonna lie. I mean, I'm not gonna even pretend to be humble about it. It's gonna be freaking amazing. The last show, let's see, we had some Afro-Cuban salsa and some folkloric. That was really cool. We had twerk. We had mapuka, which was kind of the precursor to twerk. We had New Orleans bounce. Actually, it was New Orleans bounce twerk. We had flamenco. We had Nubian dance. We had shabi. We had Palestinian dabke. We had yeah, we had Khaliji. Yeah, and we had tap. We had hip hop. We had dance hall. That was awesome. I loved that. That was so cool. We had Afro-Peruvian contemporary fusion. What else did we have? We have Senegalese dance. It was amazing. It was amazing.
so I'm gonna
So
need to know so I can get a plane ticket and come and be an
yes,
audience. I don't
yes.
care like if it's in 2023, I will be there. It will be up on the Esmar page. Like people need to come.
Yeah.
That's
My
incredible.
guess is gonna be 2022. Yeah.
Yay.
It was supposed to be October 2020. But yeah, clearly it didn't happen. But no, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah.
That's exciting. So I wanted to ask you too about, like, I know we have our traditional, beautiful, amazing foundation in belly dance, like that comes from, the Turkish area, North Africa, it's scattered. But all that to say, there's also new and up and coming trends because it's a dance and dances change, like cultures shift. How do you feel like you've been able to balance like keeping the foundations and the roots of the dance and also like keeping up with the trends?
Balancing it. To be honest with you, because I'm not performing on a regular basis, really, through the pandemic, I haven't really, I mean, so I've been taking different lessons. I've been following the conversation around Maharaganat. And I've always been a fan of Maharaganat for a while, and Shabi and all that. I follow all like the YouTube channels of the film industry in Egypt for their new Shabi. I follow uh I have that app Angami. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but they've got tons of playlists and new Egyptian and Arab pop and Maharaganat and even some like Egyptian trap. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of it, but um so I've been trying to follow that, but I listen and I dance to classics, quote unquote classics on a regular basis. Um and that's always been my comfort zone, even studying Maharaganat and Shabi. I love dancing to that stuff. I love it. Um but I think also I feel like my weakness in dancing to like Egyptian shabi and Maharaganat and all that is like the gestures and the body language, because I don't speak Egyptian Arabic. I mean, I always make sure I learn the translation, learn what the song's about and the context and all that. But still, I don't speak Egyptian Arabic. I haven't internalized any of those gestures or anything. So I feel like when I do those things, it's really fake and really uncomfortable. So the way I dance in Maharaganat is still very like a lot of belly dance, but with a lot of like, the maybe some of the gestures and moves that aren't tied to words or tied to phrases or anything. So that's how I'm balancing it. Um and I'm not sure if that's what you meant by balancing it,
Mm-hmm.
but to keep on top of things, because I feel like to think that dance just stays the same all the time is it's a kind of dehumanizing idea, because people change and people are influenced. They create all the time. They react to the environment all the time. And so, to just stick with one aspect of one point in time of belly dance, it is kind of, I don't know, it's just mm, it's just kind of I don't really like that mindset. I know there are people who just are stuck to their ways. And I say this as like a student of belly dance. I'm talking about like non-Egyptian students of belly dance. I'm sure like, the folks like Soher Zaki or something, or Fifi Abdu, if they dance the same way forever, whatever. That's that, they can do it. That's them. And they are the standard bearers, standard makers. So it's like, or the history creators. You know what I mean? So that's not who I'm talking about when I say it's kind of meh to see people be like, oh well, I only like vintage cabaret, which I hear a lot around here in Seattle. And I've always thought that was that's a real big shame. It's a real big shame to see dance that way, to see art that way. I mean, it's one thing to have a preference and to really feel like you're at home in that, but to kind of like, look down on things that are new and like real evolution as opposed to like appropriated evolution, you know? It's kind of a shame. Like you know, how do you learn about people when you think that they're supposed to be the same? Like, I don't know. That's my
I
soap
agree
opera.
with you. And then it's kind of like I always have to remind myself, like, who are we to be like, I don't like this new
Yeah.
style. Like, it's not even my, then I'm
I
not
know.
like, who, we're not the experts.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
to an extent, yes. If you are in this dance for years and you study, like you have credibility, but we have to remember that this is just not a dance. It's tied to people's culture. So you got
Yeah.
to be a little bit careful about like becoming a purist about something that doesn't come from your actual like cultural
Yes.
background.
Right.
even as
Right.
even as people of color. Like
Yeah.
it's not, I'm still American.
Mhm.
I know my roots, but I'm still American and I have to be mindful. Like I can't go to Egypt and be like, I feel like
Yeah. What y'all
you're
doing are
doing
wrong.
is not aligned with the belly dance community.
Right, right. I mean, I like that whole conversation around how Maharaganat is not, I don't know, that's just, that left a really sour taste in my mouth. And I had a lot of respect for Mohammed Shaheen. I mean, I still do as a choreographer, but I just thought that was a really, and I don't know, and hearing, and I've heard like white dancers say the same thing that he said, like white older generation dancers have said the same thing he said. And it's just, uh, I don't know. People, you can't expect people to not change, and not have, and their environments shape their values. And I guess if I were trying to, like, if I had a lot to be angry about or had a lot of steam to blow off, I would want to be bouncing around all the time too, to get that energy out, you know? And that's
And we
joy
see
for
that.
people.
Yeah, we see that in every culture too. I don't know
Yeah.
why it's like this concept is so bizarre. Like we see that in rock and roll, rap. I mean, there's
Yeah.
the more mellow sides of it, but there's also like that self-expression and the raunchiness and the anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it might show up differently in different places, but
Mhm.
it's a human experience. That's what art is.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think it's also a very white mindset. Even though Muhammad Shaheen is not a white guy, I get that, I know that. But it's a very like the whole thing about being classy and balletic and like, formally trained or like polished and just keeping it together, not being too raucous or not rocking the boat. It's very colonialist. It's very white. It's a very white thing to me. And other people have made this comparison already to like the hip hop growth of hip hop here, cassette culture here, and people turning their nose to that. Um, yeah, I'm just not a fan of people turning their nose to things.
Get it? And it's tough. Like, I mean, it's easy to, in our community, like point out white people doing white people stuff.
Right.
But we have to realize, like, we also have ingrained those values into our families and our
Yes.
ancestry. And
Yes.
it's uncomfortable, but we have to purge it too. Like, a lot of this, like, classist, racist, colonialist thought process is also ours. And when we
Hmm.
catch ourselves being like, oh, not me, it's like, okay, well, why? Like, what's the
Yeah.
problem? And you don't have to be for something, but I think that's something as like dancers of color we have to unpack too.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's not comfortable,
Uh,
but it's necessary to do some
yeah.
self-reflection. And it's very similar. But even within like the Black community with hip hop and rap, like there are still people who are very offended, and they don't like the raunchiness. Like I know Cardi B gets under people's skin, Megan Thee Stallion, but you got to unpack that. You can
Yeah.
not like things, but there's a difference between
Yeah.
not liking things and having a level of anger and hate for them that is beyond
Exactly.
preference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone can like and dislike what they want, and I think neither one of us is saying anything about like you can't have an opinion, but when your opinion becomes like
A visceral like
yeah,
hate and like, yeah. Yeah. I
there's
agree.
something to unpack there. Like you need to look at yourself because that has nothing to do with what the other person's doing at that point.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, we've internalized so much. Um, and especially in the Asian community, um, we think a lot of us think we're white. A lot of us think we're as good as white. um, a lot of us try to attain whiteness somehow, um, and oftentimes by turning our nose at others, like we feel like that brings us closer to whiteness, to cleanliness, to godliness, whatever that saying is. So there's a lot of that in the Asian community too. I just remember my mom talking about her education in Vietnam, just being how like she learned French and she spoke French fluently, so she was like she had a better education than all the her Vietnamese friends, her peers or whatever. Um, and it didn't, of course, that was before I knew anything about colonialism or whatever, but as an adult, I look back, I'm like, oh, that was a, mm. And then and reading up on the history of Vietnam and colonialism and understanding the dynamics in the American War and all that, it just made me really think, yeah, we get that from somewhere, but we get it and we have to acknowledge it and purge it because it's, that's how we keep ourselves down. That's how we give power to the colonizers. So,
It's awfully difficult to have community when we're all like making our own little bubbles.
yeah, for
And we're
sure.
like, okay, like, yeah, I don't believe in what they're doing, but also I'm better than you. Like, we can't get anywhere with that mentality.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I think it's hard for people to talk about, how different races relate in the non-white community, how colorism plays into it, but it's something that we have to think about.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, when we strip everything away from this, it's art and we're a community. Not to
Yeah,
say that like the belly dance part's not important, but if we're going to continue to do things and feel safe in our community, we have to make it safe for everybody.
right.
And yeah, and it's not going to come from being like technically amazingly proficient in knowing Arabic. Like that's great, but also it's a human experience because it's art. So
Right. Right.
hopefully we can start to break down some barriers and connect better with the people who are from this ancestral background, but also connect better with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate you doing this series. I
Oh,
really do.
thank you. It's
Yeah.
been really like I hope that it's been restorative and healing for other people. Like just doing it personally, it just makes me happy. Like that we're all able to like have a voice and connect.
Yeah.
It's important.
So are you doing anything in person once the pandemic is under control? Once
Yes.
it's safe?
So as Mara is going to do a festival, we just decided that the best thing to do would be to wait until the pandemic's over.
Right.
So we have a lot of things coming up online, but we definitely, even beyond the festival, we want to do some community gathering that's
Hmm.
dance focused, but also just is focused on like people having a safe space with each other. So it's coming.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the world opens back up soon. Fingers crossed. Is there
Fingers
anything
crossed.
else like that we haven't gone over you'd want to share?
Um, no, I think we covered a lot of ground. I mean, I want to keep people up to date as much as I can on the whole spice thing, but right now I don't have any information to keep you up to date with. So just gotta, follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. I finally got on TikTok.
You're ahead of me.
Oh my goodness. It's such a weird environment. Well, lots of, I don't know, so much stimuli on the screen. Um, but yeah, I'm on TikTok. I'm on TikTok as Carol the Star Matriarch. So that's kind of going to be my stage name, my personality, Star Matriarch. Like,
I
yeah,
like it.
thank you. I like it too. Because I'm a mom and I want to be a star.
You are a star, so you already
Why,
made
thank you. Thank you. So that's where you can find me on TikTok. And then on Instagram, I'm just Carol the Belly Dancer. I'm probably gonna change that to Carol the Star Matriarch as well and combine like my dance and music and just rants mom stuff onto the same thing. So I don't have to, delegate or like compartmentalize so much of my life into different social media accounts. Just compile everything. for sanity's sake.
That's good. And we'll make sure we'll share that so nobody needs to scramble to write it down if you want to connect. And you are a part of our community now, so please keep us abreast of
Yay!
what you're doing.
I will do.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you for
Thank
doing our
you so
interview.
much. I really appreciate this. Was a lot of fun. This was a lot of
Yay.
fun. Thank you so much, Sabia. Did I say it right? Sabia?
Yes, it
Okay.
is Sabia.
Thank you.